It's LBI Region Report time, and Lori, I love July because it's like that. It's like every day there's something happening. I mean, there's always something happening, but I think that like July, you start to really feel like, oh yeah, it's definitely summer. We're in the thick of
The
it.
heat is
The
on.
heat is on, and here we are. It's July 20th, and just enjoying a great summer at the Jersey Shore.
Well, we certainly, want everybody to have a safe and healthy summer, and of course, with a lot of excitement.
Mhm.
But it's this time of year, and one of our members, St. Mary's, they have their Nights of Summer Carnival, and we love going to these local
Never miss
carnivals
it.
and fairs. This is July 21st to the 26th. It happens from 6 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. nightly. They have rides, they have games, they have great food, free admission, free parking. They do different wristband specials, but this is located right off of McKinley on Bishop Lane, where the St. Mary Parish Center is.
Mhm.
And it's just a fun week to come out. And of course, it's so great to see all the volunteers that continue to make this event possible. So if you have time this week, July 21st to the 26th, you might want to stop in, maybe win a prize, maybe get a sausage sandwich, something that makes a lemonade, something that makes
Well,
summer
I mean,
undeniable.
I don't always go for the rides, but I go for the
Yeah,
food.
we go for the food at this point in time.
Give me a
And the,
sausage sandwich, some
and
fried Oreos.
my
I'm
kids
good.
used to always volunteer for the dunk tank. That used to be their thing.
Yeah. Hmm.
The dunk tank. They used to wear their little scuba suits and go in there.
And it's
So
fun.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun. It's a lot of fun to see that everybody, participate. So we have that coming up, but we also want to talk with summer. There's always a lot of planning. You're planning for the fall, you're planning for the next year, and one thing that we want to talk about is most important, of course, is benefits and how to keep your family safe and healthy. So we have a great guest, Ray Tropiano. He is a benefits consultant from High Bar Benefits. And he's going to basically talk all about, first of all, loving life in the LBI region, which we all agree. We all wholeheartedly agree about that, but also about his business, the challenges, and of course, what he covers. So thanks for coming on, Ray.
Thanks, Lori. Thanks for having me.
So let's find out a little bit about you and your family, and of course, enjoying life in Long Beach Island in Southern Ocean County. I know that you're very active. You have a young family, and you're always going.
Yeah. Actually, we have three young daughters. The youngest who just came in May, and our oldest actually attends St. Mary's. So definitely we'll, see everybody at the carnival. I hope everybody can make it. But yeah, my wife and I both grew up around the area, spending summers down here. And when it was time to kind of settle down, and actually I was living in Barnegat Light at the time, in a little rental as we're seeing less and less of on the island. But I was living in Barnegat Light, we decided that we wanted to make the step and have a family and all that, and just we couldn't find a better place than Stafford, Manahawkin, the LBI region, just with the community for our kids and our families and our history here. So as you said, it's hard not to enjoy the LBI scene. So
Yeah, it's a lot of fun in the summer. I mean, there's just so much activities and things going on, but there's also such moments of quiet time that's just so
yeah.
appreciated as well.
Yeah,
And,
the winters are, we like to say, the fall, winter, it's just as good. Spring could be a little tough, gets a little gray, but
yeah, yeah,
but
that's
we
for
do love it
sure.
down here. It's hard to
Little
be
wet, little gray.
a little wet. Yep.
So I know there's some challenges of having a small business, especially when it comes to benefits. I mean, that's one of the things that, a lot of our small business owners really found hard to navigate. So let's talk a little bit about what makes high bar benefits a little different as far as the approach.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, you nailed it. Small businesses have enough to navigate already, when you just talk about the day-to-day operation of running a business. When you add benefits to the mix, and especially, benefits of late that have become really burdened down with, federal and state regulations and whatnot, it's definitely gotten complicated over the years. One thing that we like to say is we try to make it simple. We try to look at each group or each, company as their own individual entity, not just part of a bigger picture, and really find a solution that fits them. Because there is no one size fits all solution in, offering benefits or providing a benefits package to your employees. And one of the major things one of the driving factors behind starting high bar benefits, and one of the things we try to focus on is paying attention to everybody, from the individual consumer to the two employee group to the 200 employee group.
Hmm.
In my time in the industry, I found that most agencies, they tend to want to pay attention to the 200 employee group, and
Sure.
the two group owner who's a father with his kid, on the company, and their family on the plan, that they get overlooked a little bit. So we sort of branched off from being a part of that revolving wheel of the bigger agencies, took the producer model and tried to really, and that's even why I had you introduce me as a consultant, because we really want to take the consultant approach. We're
Hmm.
not trying to push a product in front of you. We're trying to figure out, the best way to help you run your business, to attract employees, and once you have them, to keep them happy and keep them, on payroll instead of looking for somewhere else to work.
True.
So there's a lot of challenges. We try to, again, take the approach that each individual group is different. Each individual group is going to have needs. And, it's often needs beyond the benefits. Like, offering a health plan is great, but, what else do you give your employees? What other kind of incentives are there? How easy is it to manage that health plan? Can they do it online, or do they have to call somebody? So we try and, partner with the right vendors for each company, or each group, as we like to call them, to really just streamline their day to day besides the benefits, the HR and all that kind of stuff. Because most small businesses don't have someone specifically handling that. They kind of look to us, and the more people we can hook them up with, so to speak, to make their lives easier, the better, the more smooth everything runs.
And with small businesses, the number one reason why they can't grow is because they need to retain talent, right? So, in
Correct.
order to
Yep.
offer these benefits so that they're not looking and moving on. But I mean, there are, of course, people that, not everybody gets coverage through their employer. They might have a really good working relationship and it works for their lifestyle, but maybe the benefits aren't there. So, what are some options for people that have to provide their own health insurance?
Certainly, certainly. So yeah, just to touch on that retention, point about employers and keeping employees on. The last stat we heard, I think the average employee stays for roughly 2 years.
Hmm.
So basically anything an employer could do to prolong that 2 years
Yeah.
is a positive, which really isn't a long time. When you think about the process of hiring and training and all that kind of stuff, the longer you can keep employees on, the less you have to do that. But like you said, not everybody gets their coverage from an employer. I'm an independent contractor, operator. So I'm providing my own insurance, just like a lot of other consumers out there. What a lot of people don't realize is there are a lot of options, and there actually are brokers, like myself, who are willing to assist you and help you navigate those options. You're not just at the whim of the carrier. But some of the options for individuals would be the state marketplace, Get Covered in New Jersey, which offers Affordable Care Act coverage, like your Horizons and your AmeriHealth and things like that. And they also do subsidized coverage. The government, depending on income, will subsidize a portion of your health care if you qualify for it. And for those who don't, qualify for subsidies, one thing I point out, and a lot of people don't realize, is you don't have to go through the state marketplace. You don't have to add the third party of the state if they're not contributing anything. You can go direct to the carrier. And honestly, with that, anytime you don't have a third party, it's a little easier, it's a little smoother. And,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize that you can call somebody like me. We could sign you, right directly up for a plan where I'm really the only one who can help navigate it. There's no third party that gets involved. There's also private options for individuals, which I don't think are advertised very well.
Mm.
They are usually offered by a third party administrator, and they offer a health plan. They usually do require medical underwriting, like a health questionnaire or something like that. But for more healthy individuals, or healthier individuals, I guess you could say, the people who are calling me saying, "Hey, we never use our coverage. Why do we
Right.
have to pay so much for it?" It's really a good option. We're starting to see some of those pop up, some alternatives for individuals that kind of mirror alternatives on the group side for how the plan's funded, who's controlling the claims, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that is helping bring costs down. But I think, and I always say this, the most important thing for an individual, or really anybody, is just don't go at it alone because you're not going to see all those options. You're not going to get all the information unless it's being provided to you by, an agnostic broker who's not affiliated with a certain party and wants to just put the best choices in front of you.
And knows what to look for, right?
And
And
knows what
knows
to
what
look
to
for,
look for. The
depending on
traps
age,
and
whether you're
yep,
young, whether
yep.
you're about to turn 65 and you're only on the plan for a couple of years. All those things play a role, you know.
And it's important because I mean, healthcare, the costs are astronomical when you if you have a health emergency and you start seeing those bills come in, you're going to say, "Thank God I have the right insurance plan that's helping alleviate."
Exactly. And that's our main goal is to, and you kind of just nailed it, Lori, is to give you that confidence that I
Yeah.
picked the right plan, not digging through your wallet trying to figure out, what carrier you have, what your
Yeah.
deductible might be, what your network is. The more questions like that you can answer ahead of time, the more you know your coverage and at least, or if you know someone who knows your coverage and can help you, navigate it, the more prepared you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be when you actually go to use it. And honestly, a lot of people don't use their coverage because they're not confident in it, and that's something that affects claims and costs as well. Is people delaying care,
Yeah.
and then situations getting worse, and it was simply because they didn't want to meet their deductible or whatever the case might have been. So the more you could be preemptive there and talk to somebody who has you in the right plan, just the better that situation is going to be. Because as a health insurance broker, Lori, and I'm sure you'd agree, you've never called your health insurance person because there was something good happening.
No.
It's always because there's something bad, and it's always a now. It's very rarely down the line or this might happen. So we want to address that ahead of time.
And again, working with experts. So even if there is that doubt, hey, listen, you know what? We just found out that I need surgery, or we just had this happen to us. Is this going to be covered? Is this something to have someone that you can call is very important, especially in a time of stress, right?
That you can
To have
communicate
that
with,
local,
Yep.
relationship. And that's what
Because
I mean, the
yeah.
chamber, this is our 112th year. And times have changed. You used to be able to go down the street and be able to get all your answers solved.
Yep.
Now, you go online, you
Pay
can get a
cash and you'd
lot
be
of,
out the door, right?
yep. Now there's a lot of misinformation out there. It's not
There
like,
is. Well, there's a lot of, I always say there's a lot of misinformation, but there's also just a lot of information. And a
yeah,
lot of it's correct. It might not pertain to you,
yeah.
or be specific to your situation. So having someone kind of be able to navigate that for you is very important
Yeah, it is true. And the
for
fact that
individuals and business owners, because there's just as much on the individual end, when you're talking a business owner, compliance and all that kind of stuff. But when you're talking someone who works for themselves, are you paying for your premiums correctly? Are you doing the right things to be taking the most advantage of the health insurance?
yeah, I agree. And you had mentioned 65. Let's talk a little bit about Medicare. I know many people that are, I mean, especially in Southern Ocean County, we have
Yep.
a very high
Yep.
55 and over
Absolutely.
population. This is
Mhm.
home to a lot of beautiful retirement communities. So, some people might be moving, move down. A lot of people now, they move down while they're still working, and then
Right, right.
now they're approaching, 65, they're approaching Medicare. What should somebody that's turning 65 know? And like, how should they start planning for those decisions? Because, I mean, for me, whenever I sort of glaze over when they start talking about Social Security and Medicare, it seems like it's so far away, but it's just a few years down the road.
Yep. Yeah, and it does, it comes up quickly. And again, there's a lot of information out there. So it's important that you're looking at the right channels and you're looking at the right resources. The most important thing, honestly, someone could know about turning 65 and going on Medicare is that it's not free. That's the one thing I always point out, and one thing people ask me all the time,
Mm.
oh, I have to pay for this? Yeah, you do have to pay for Medicare. It's much more cost effective than your traditional insurance. The government has done a good job of containing the cost on Medicare, but it's not free. And there are actually penalties if you don't sign up correctly.
Wow.
So the biggest takeaway anybody, approaching 65 or thinking about that you can get from this is your window for Medicare starts 3 months before you turn 65. There is no reason to wait any longer than that to start talking to someone about it.
Right.
The clients I have, the sooner you get started, the better prepared you are for when that actual Medicare transition does happen. If you take advantage of that enrollment window, start 3 months before. It could be a very enjoyable experience, again, because coverage and cost is really great on Medicare, but it could also be very confusing if you're not working with someone. I always say don't go at it alone. There's a lot of people, and I'm sure you even know that Medicare is the one health insurance that people are willing to talk about over the dinner table. Hey, what kind of coverage do you have?
Yes.
Oh, I
Yeah.
have this. They
Yeah.
give me that. It's a great resource. Ask your friends, ask what they have, ask who they talk to, when did they get started. And I always point out that, and you kind of mentioned it, Lori, that not everybody's retiring at 65, not everybody's going on Medicare at 65. It's okay. Have a conversation with someone when the time comes anyway, just so you know if you're retiring at 67, 68, what to expect, what you need to do in the interim. I have plenty of conversations with people turning 65. We talk, for a couple of minutes, and then a few years later, we talk again when they're actually ready to make the jump and make the switch. So yeah, things are different now. Not everybody's taking Social Security and retiring at 65, 67. So if you are, prolonging employment and you have the option to stay on coverage, there are caveats to that as well. So again, talk to somebody and just make sure you're
To
getting all the right
understand.
information,
Yeah.
because
And
Medicare
again,
can be great, but it can be confusing.
and for those that are self-employed, I mean, really, having a
Especially for those
conversation
that are
with Ray
self-employed.
is
Yep. Yeah. Especially for those, because again, you can run in, you can be penalized, and those penalties stay with you for life. And when income changes, you're on Social Security, you don't want to have, extra expenditures that you could have avoided.
so you get a chance to do it right.
You get a
Let's
chance to do it
plan.
right. So work with
Let's
somebody who
plan.
will help you do that.
That's correct.
Yep.
That's correct. So, I mean, everywhere in the news, the healthcare costs is one of the top things that people are discussing the rise year after year. On the front line, like, what do you see? Do you see that there's relief in the future? Do you think that there's ways to circumvent some of these changes?
Well, so what I think and what I see is obviously quite different in the healthcare world. But to answer your question frankly, Lori, relief is not coming. We can't expect it from the government or from the carriers. We
Right.
we as consumers have to go out there and find it. We have to be knowledgeable of what we're purchasing. We have to do our due diligence, do our homework, and make sure again that we're confident in the decisions we're making. Because while some costs with healthcare we can't control, rising prescription costs, rising hospital costs, things like that, what we're paying, and what we're paying when we go, we can try and can control that. And I think clarity and just knowledge, the more brokers that can take that consultant approach and really make sure people understand coverage, understand how billing works, things like that, there will be less surprises at least, which will bring some relief in big bills and unexpected costs that we can control those a little more. And really, I think just, make sure you're talking to someone, make sure you're not trying to go at it alone. The days of just renewing your coverage saying, I'll eat the increase, those are gone because it's
The
going
good
to keep
old
happening
days.
every
Yeah.
year. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
never thought
And a lot
about
of,
it.
a lot of brokers loved those days because it was really easy, but now you really have to strategize and you really have to talk to a group about, hey, forget the benefits. Obviously, we want to offer that. What's your plan as a company? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? What does your staff want to be in 5 years? And how do we get there? What sort of tools can we put in to help you do that?
So I think the most important thing is to connect you with any of our listeners that are interested. Now, of course, you can find Ray through the chamber website, visit lbiregion.com, but you can contact him directly through Instagram, through his website. So can you share your information with them?
Yeah, actually, so I put this nice
I
background
saw
together
that.
here, just for everybody. So you could always reach us on our phone here, 609-467-3098. We're available, email info@highbar benefits. I don't have it listed, but we're also, highbarbenefits.com under a quick Google, which will bring you to us. And then we do have an Instagram. We're not huge on social media, but we do the Instagram and a little social media presence on there where we actually have a weekly series called the ABCs of Health Insurance.
Oh, excellent.
And it just kind of goes over some, tips and tricks for navigating and using your coverage. We go over some acronyms, some terminology, things like that. So that's also just, a great way to tune in and get informed too.
Well, thank you, Ray, for sharing so much information. And hopefully, we raised some curiosity with some of our listeners who might not have thought any of these things might apply to them. And I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
there is definitely, there's a conversation to be had. So please contact Ray and get everything in order so that you get the best bang for your buck when it comes to health benefits. So thank you so much
Absolutely.
and enjoy the rest of your summer with your family.
Thank you, Lori. Appreciate it. And we'll see you guys at the carnival. All
Oh,
right.
absolutely. Have a great one.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
So, really excited because we've have our 8th year. Remember when we launched the LBI Ferry with the Tuckerton Seaport?
Yeah.
8 years.
Wow.
Boy.
Time
8 years
flies.
of ferry
I hate to
service.
say it. It sounds cliche, but
if you
oh my
haven't
goodness.
taken the LBI water ferry at Tuckerton Seaport and it goes down to Beach Haven and returns, you can. Service is on Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays now through Labor Day. And a round trip cost per adult is $22 a person.
Not bad.
Well worth it for a great day on the bay without having to sit in traffic. This is open air seating. They have an onboard bathroom. They leave the seaport at 8 a.m., 11 a.m., 2:30 p.m., and 5:30 p.m. This is Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays through this summer. And then they depart from the Taylor Avenue Public Dock in Beach Haven, 9:30, 12:30, 4 o'clock p.m., and 7 p.m. So you can get over early and you can, get the ferry back before dusk. And again, everything is available online. You can go to tuckertonseaport.org or you could go to Visit LBI Region and find the water ferry schedule and any questions and answers. But it is a beautiful pontoon boat. It's so easy to ride. I mean, it's just a great way to see the bay and just enjoy, again, beautiful weather, the summer, see all the nature that surrounds us.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been on it, I certainly recommend it. And it's the 8th summer, so that's something to celebrate, I think. And of course, if you are interested in new businesses, we have a ribbon cutting coming up in August 7th at 11 a.m. This is Life with Paws. It's a grooming salon, and they're going to be having a special event August 7th at their location, 147 North Main Street in Manahawkin. Guests are going to have the opportunity to learn all about proper grooming for your pet, what services they offer. You're going to get to meet and greet the team. They have a retail shop that's going to be open for shopping. They're going to have light refreshments, and they're going to have coupons and giveaways and educational materials for the pets. And you know how we love the pets, Billy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing that beats them. They're the best. So
Can't live without them.
You can't live without them. So please save the date for August 7th. The community is welcome. And of course, remember the carnivals this week for St. Mary's. Reach out to Ray for any of your health benefit needs. And July 30th, want a window home show from 1 to 6. If you're planning on doing any kind of major repairs or just curious about some of the windows, doors, and trim that goes on, free food and drinks and giveaways and special discounts. And that is July 30th, 1 to 6 at 158 South Main Street, which is Route 9 in Manahawkin. So a lot of good things coming, and we certainly appreciate you tuning in and spending your day with us.
And make sure you look for our show as a podcast. Find us wherever podcasts are found, and look for us on YouTube as well.